welcome. I'm Wes Warren. I'm here with Greg Stanley. Over the years, Whitehall has had postures of be absent without leave and have a doctor working there and kind of have the flexibility, lifestyle, everything, and income that they want. Now, some things have changed over the years, and a lot of our doctors are retiring, leaving practice. But Greg, there's a new message that I think that our doctors need to hear from you on this position in terms of when I should leave and when's the right time to get out of practice and really retire. In terms of the climate that we're in right now with inflation and upheavals of the market, and there's no place to invest, what do you tell doctors now about when's the right time to retire? What's your stance on that right now?
It's a good question. These things are hard to know. We just came through COVID, and it seemed like with the internet and a pile of experts, we couldn't get enough information. We couldn't get enough facts to figure out what to do. We started Whitehall. We talked about municipal bonds, and a lot of people now think that was brilliant. But the truth is, we struggled beyond struggling to get that message out. It wasn't welcomed. People wanted to do real estate. They wanted to do stocks and all kind of weird stuff. And we said municipal bonds. Now, people need to understand the municipal bonds of our time is actually found in their own office. We call it retiring with their practice or staying with the practice. And some people think I'm trying to make them stay in there and keep working. No, when your energy plays out a little bit, you don't want to get up and go down there and fight that fight every day. But the things you've learned are priceless. You can sell your practice to another doctor and you can get a few $100,000, but they're actually worth a fortune. If you can take this knowledge you've got about how to work with patients, how to read patients, and get patients to accept what you're saying, get them to refer, make them happy. If you can teach that to other doctors inside your office, you have an annuity right there. Those guys or those people, doctors, male and female, will work there, and you'll pay them, roughly 25 to 28% of what they make, and you can keep 15 to 20% of what they do. And so that's the new way to go forward. Bonds are dead. They don't pay interest, they only pay risk.
Why do you feel like you're such a big believer in this now? What's driving your belief that this is the new approach? Why is this so important?
Well, as we worked with so many doctors over time, we saw people that had bits and pieces that solved problems that had made me rule it out before. For example, I'd seen associates quit and steal the patients and steal the staff until I saw somebody actually figure out how to stop that. We had seen associates fail where they couldn't sell dentistry until I saw somebody get an associate where they got them not to do that. In other words, you can rack up all of these objections, and we found people, maybe they hadn't figured everything out, but when we put it together, we had everything figured out. And so we can take a doctor predictably, keep them in practice another decade, even while they age. I might add, they don't age as fast when they're not working 4 long days a week, but we can do that. That's the new goal. There's gold in your practice. Just a word about investments, if I could. Yeah, I'm not high on bonds because they don't pay interest, they just pay risk. In the stock market, studies showed that people doing their own investing, because a lot of people want me to say, hey, skip the broker because we know that costs 2.9%, and do your own. Statistically, you lose money, not interest. You lose your principal dabbling around in the stock market. It's a narrow market. There's a handful of companies driving the whole thing, making you think the stock market is safe. There's all these things that are out there, but they're an illusion. I want to do another recording with your permission, Wes, and talk about that. But for right now, I would say the new municipal bonds is really staying in practice. And when people took on municipal bonds, there was things they had to learn. And it wasn't that they had to learn everything about bonds so they could pick bonds. They had to learn enough to keep their brokers honest. And the place we're going to send people with associates and all that, there's some things you got to learn. There's some things, some fears you got to get past. Let me just name a couple. One,
Okay.
I'm not busy now. Well, part of that's that you're a little bit older, a little bit less energy. You haven't updated your marketing and you're not on the cutting edge. And so you're thinking, how am I going to feed associates with this gold you're talking about if I can't stay busy? You could, but you got an energy issue. I could show you how to keep associates busy all day long. The secret is the thing you got to stop and get out your pencil and paper and learn is how to get them to sell dentistry so that people buy it and they refer others and they come back. Yeah, that's what, just like municipal bonds of the past, now it's another stage of practice. Like I said, when I started out, nobody wanted bonds, nobody. And it took me a long time to find a couple of brokers that would accommodate our doctors. Everybody would bait and switch them. Yeah, we got bonds. And when we would get there, we would find out that they had bait and switched and that the broker had actually been threatened by their overlords not to sell people municipal bonds. Kind of a dead end for the money. They needed the money to sit there and circulate into commissions. So it's a new message out there. And I would go as far as to say, this message is actually easier on you than trying to get municipal bonds. To find a broker that would sell them and do all of that. Those of you who did it, great. And I'm glad you got them. But the go forward, bonds are paying such low interest. I'm not even sure it's a positive number anymore. And the risks seem to be off the chart. No, we got a different way to go. And it works for everybody that follows the rules.
If you were to describe doctors that this is a perfect fit for, in terms of maybe their personality, but also their operatories, maybe practice size, is there a profile that's kind of perfect for this scenario?
Well, there's no doubt a person that has a few extra operatories or has maybe 5 ops if possible. You can always pull the owner out a day or two and put associate in. That's always doable. But as far as a real nice, smooth, long-term, strong transition, it'd be great to have enough hygiene to support 2 associates. Now, I know you're thinking, Greg, like I said, I can't even stay busy. How am I going to keep 2 associates busy? Well, they may not be full-time, but you want to have maybe 5 ops. That is the best situation.
Scenario. Okay.
Yeah, so
you talked about, Greg, you talked about pulling out, meaning if I'm working 4 days a week and I cut down to maybe a day and a half and I bring in associates to work the other 2.5 days, that's feasible? That you see doctors do that? And what's that life look like? I mean, is that what you're describing here?
Here's how it starts. Maybe the owner works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's what they're doing. And they drop Thursday. Associate picks up Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then they just work their way back. And the associate picks up the other days slowly over the next 5 years. You want associates to learn the skills you've got. It takes some time, but you can do this. Wes, you asked me who this really works for. Well, you might have been thinking operatories, but you know who I really worry about is people with $700,000, $800,000, $1 million saved, and they're going to cut the cord and try to make a go of it. They're like a spacewalker on a tether. They're going to chop that cord and try to make it back to the ship. Well, hopefully they can. But we have inflation. I would say we haven't hit the real politically induced inflation. We're where you have crazy borrowing. We're dealing with shortages that came out of the pandemic. We don't even know what real inflation is yet.
Right.
When Whitehall started, 80, 81, we had 12.9 and 13.2% inflation. It was devastating. Could we be there again? Very possibly, but keep in mind, it did go away. You know, when people talk about that inflation, they forget that wasn't even the star of the show. Interest rates during that time hit 26%. Now stop and take that in. That was in an effort to cool off real estate. People were borrowing, buying real estate. There was TV shows about doing that and all this. Flipping is now kind of the thing, but it's on a small scale. Interest rates were so out of control, it was unbelievable. So interest cooled down, so did inflation. It will again. Problem is when you really go on a fixed income, you might really feel that. And my biggest concern, if I had to say it, you know, if I was on Facebook or something, this would probably be censored, but my biggest concern is that people will decide that people that have money saved need to share it. And I don't just mean through taxes. It hasn't happened in this country, but we're looking at some new territory. I think you told me that when your wife lived in a socialist or a communist environment, they would come to you and put more families in your home.
Yes, yeah.
Nobody knows how far we'll swing with these things. My advice is stay with your practice. Imagine yourself on the sea. You've lost your boat, but you've got a life jacket. Stay with your life jacket, you know, and keep going.
I would agree, Greg. You know, we talk to a lot of doctors that might have 700, 800 or $1 million cash saved. The practice is worth 500, 600, and maybe their house is worth 400, 500. You know, their net worth on paper is 2 million. But to cut the cord, yeah, and that scenario,
they don't have to cut the cord. They just have to stretch the cord. You know, stay in practice, stay with your practice. Some associates are earning money. I don't care if you're only taking home from your practice $8,000 or $10,000. That's 2.5 times what you could ever hope to get from Social Security.
Yeah.
And you put that together with a relatively sane lifestyle, you'll make it fine.
So that's kind of the new message for a lot of our doctors. Stick with the practice as long as you can, as long as you are able to.
A lot of people we work with were our early doctors that followed the bonds message. They really saved a lot. Their bonds bought more bonds. I mean, they did great, and they don't have 800,000. They got 8 million. You know, they got all this money, and they're looking pretty good. If I was them, I'd do this anyway, just to keep my life healthy,
meaningful,
and an extra element of safety involved. So those who are new to this and you've scratched together a little money, and you know, it's not that you're not good savers. Some of you have been through a couple of divorces, health problems, pandemic. There's a number of things, grim reapers that show up to get your cash. You want to make a plan to go forward. My suggestion is give us a call. Let us show you how to make a plan to stay with your practice, keep an income coming in.
Greg, what's that look like? If somebody wanted to call us and was kind of in that, you're describing me right now, this me, I had a divorce, I would have saved a lot of money, but I had a divorce, I had some kids I put through college, real expensive. I lived good, but I really didn't save as much as I should have. And this sounds like this might be a solution for me. You know, when I call you, what are you going to say? What's that mean?
First thing, try to put a gauge on you to see how you're doing. I mean, are you tired? Are you burned out? Do you want out? Do you look at your wristwatch to see how long you've got left in practice? You know, that kind of thing. If you're in good shape mentally and physically, we can plan this out so it's very smooth, very gradual. On the other hand, if you're at the hanging by the end of the rope, we have to show you how to put things together, how to do it quick. And some of you are thinking, Greg, my staff will never go for this. Well, if you sell your practice, you're the new buyer. First thing he's going to do is want to get rid of those people because they're loyal to you. Patients are going to come in and wonder where you went. This really should be a long-term process where you get a good income over time. Now, some of you have painted yourself in a corner. Let me explain. You got enamored with a type of dentistry that you almost can't find anybody else that does it. TMJ, some very sophisticated work that really represents very few patients. Well, that's great that you've learned to pull a living out of that or even a fortune. The downside is, how are you going to sell that to somebody? Even if you find somebody that wants it, how do you get them to do it, get them to sell it? So these are some of the special problems that we deal with here at Whitehall to help people get a plan. And that's not off the table. That plan I just talked about, we can take somebody, we do it all the time, with some very unusual technique, and we can make an associate transition work out of that, give them income for 10 more years. Money we're trying to accomplish time. Every year that goes by that you're not spending your last stinking dime that you saved is another year gained. That's a year you saved money, or at least you didn't spend your money.
So Greg, it leaves a lot of doctors kind of really wondering what's the next steps. There's a lot of different options for doctors, in terms of implementing this. And there's so many different practice styles that there is no real cookie cutter system that you can just drop in, because everybody practices so differently. The configuration of operatories, it leaves a lot of questions. And so what we've done is we've created a free one-on-one Zoom call with Greg and myself, where you can really discuss your practice options as you kind of decide whether this approach might work for you. And we'll do the best we can in trying to answer any questions you might have and seeing if this is really a fit for your practice.
Unfortunately, Wes, there's just no way forward, no way backwards without risk. And so what we'd be doing in those calls is helping them parse down their own story to get, the least risk possible. For example, some people already have an associate kind of queued up for the sale. Some people don't even know where to begin.
Right.
And so they're thinking, do I double down and start fixing up my office and buying new equipment? Or do I just dump it and go on? And so that's something we have lived through and been through. And I think we can tell you what you need to know.
And I want people to understand this is not some big sales pitch, and not all roads lead to you doing associates and having us be your consultant or anything. There are plenty of people that we talk to that we say, hey, dump it, sell it. If that's the situation, if that's the best option, that's the best option. So it's really about figuring out, what you want and trying to find a solution that fits and works.
Right.
All right, so we have a couple things that we do for people that do sign up with us. So for the first 5 people that call and schedule with us, you'll get a link that you can schedule automatically. You don't even have to call. The first 5 people get a couple really cool bonuses. The first one is our A to Z recall system. So this is hygiene recall, hygiene coordination, and it is a huge problem right now with COVID. Hygiene programs have fallen apart. There's all these openings, and it's really a disaster. In this program, what we've done is we've compiled the best systems. We've really pulled them out of the best practices in the country and found out what systems really work. What do you say? How do you say it? When did the emails go out? When did the texts go out? What do those say? To really create the perfect hygiene coordination system. By implementing this, you will have, I guarantee you, the best hygiene coordination system in the country. There will be none better than this, period. I've done it so many times. I just actually got off the phone with somebody 30 minutes ago, implementing this into their practice. And it's instant. All these openings end the next week. Anybody that wants this, if you just sign up with us and talk with Greg and I, we do it. We'll give it to you for free.
It would be worth it just to get this.
Absolutely. This is huge. Okay, and the next thing, next bonus for people that want to talk with Greg and myself, first 5 people, is hiring in the new COVID era. We've worked with obviously a lot of practices over this last year and a half, and solving this hiring Rubik's Cube of really beating doctors to the punch, and hiring employees has become probably the #1 issue. With this system, you will have every answer that we have come up with to beat this problem. And we pretty much have, although it does take a little longer than in the past, where we could have somebody sitting in place in a week or 2. We have positions where it takes 3 or 4 weeks, but we're getting the job done is the point. But it does take some tricks in how you craft the ad, what it actually says this is, and where you source from. This would be, whether you use Jobs or Indeed, use Craigslist, and the ad actually says for an employee is very important. And then how you conduct the interview is also very important, getting this to work.
Also, what to offer and how to keep it from negatively affecting your existing employees. How to get these people to come in, maybe even leave another office they're not happy with, get them in your office, start training them without upsetting the people you have and having them leave.
So yeah, this is cutting edge. It's up to date. It's made specifically for these times.
Wes, we just had a mastermind here in Phoenix, the biggest practices in the country. This was all that was talked about for 2 days. We had all these other topics on the books. We had superstars and specialists we're going to talk to, but this is all people wanted to hear about.
Yeah, so this is absolutely cutting edge stuff. So don't miss out on that. If you want to talk with Greg and myself, sign up real quick so that you end up being one of the first 5, and you'll get this stuff at no charge.
Yeah, we're coaching people now, which just leaves us a limited number of openings. That's why we say we can only handle so many calls, is because we're kind of busy as it is now.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.